everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with my co-host Shane. Shane, how are you today?
I am good. It's a good day. How about you?
It is a good day. I'm doing well as well. So in this episode of the Command Point podcast, we are basically saying goodbye to Kill Team 2018, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much left to do with it, and Summer Slaughter was kind of the last hurrah, I guess, for the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you who don't know, Shane and I got the opportunity to drive on down to Pennsylvania to partake in the Summer Slaughter Kill Team tournament put on by the group known as Basement Wargamers. They put on a fantastic event, a great turnout for a Kill Team event. There were 24 participants, I believe, 22 or 24 players from all different skill all different skill levels, from first-time players all the way up to like competitive or regular tournament players. So, what we're gonna do in today's episode is basically just like give a review for the Summer Slaughter event, talk about our performances down there, and maybe we'll have time to reminisce a little bit about the old Kill Team.
Yeah, one last reminisce.
Exactly. One last ride. So Uh, First off, before I get into talking about my performance down at Summer Slaughter, Basement Wargamers, they did a great job putting on the Kill Team tournament down there. The ticket price was good for what you got, man. They had a buffet lunch and a free beer included, which is awesome to include that with the ticket costs. And
Yeah,
the prize support was absolutely fantastic. I think it was like first, what was it? It was like best overall, first place, second place, and then I think like best painted all
yeah,
like went home with model kits. Last place also went home with a model kit, though it was not for 40K or Kill Team.
yeah. I
Um,
believe it was Blood Bowl. I believe.
yeah. Um, but yeah, lots of prize support at this event. A lot more than Atlantic City Open, I will say. Um, like
Much more.
we got in there, and like when the games were going on and they started setting up the table with all the prizes on it, I was like, oh my god, they got all these prize support just for a Kill Team event. It was
Yeah,
crazy. Like there were trophies for best general, best overall, and then best painted, and then there was one other trophy, I think. But yeah, blown
sportsmanship. I believe they gave up.
sportsmanship. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Uh Awesome event. All my opponents were great to play against. Yeah, just a real fun time overall.
yeah. I really enjoyed it. It was super well run. There were really no issues at all. Um, Obviously, like you mentioned, the ticket coming with food and drink was just excellent,
Yeah.
and
And the food was good.
it was excellent.
Yeah.
And the drinks, I mean, you said one free drink. Um, I got two. I don't know if I just kind of went back and just ordered another at one point, and the bartender was just like, "Okay, here you go." And so I don't know how far that could have been pushed, but I didn't really get to find out.
Well, I don't see that as anything bad. But
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely not.
Um So, for in the spirit of this being probably like the last Kill Team 2018 tournament that we were going to attend, I decided to bring probably the most competitive Kill Team that I owned, arguably. And for this, I ran Astra Militarum, otherwise known as the Blackstone Guard, as we've been calling it. So, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got Godfrey. It's got Pius Vorn. It's got Ryan and Rouse. It's got Scions with all of their cool weapons. It's got regular guardsmen gunners with plasma guns. Everything that you would expect from your typical meta Astra Militarum list. And leading up to this tournament, I think I built and painted up like at least half of it in like 2 weeks. If you want to check out the pictures for the kill team, you can go and check it out over on our Instagram page. There was a Bolgrin in there. I had a Bolgrin in this list that I made by converting an Inquisitor from a Space Marine aggressor and a bunch of other 40k and some Aegis Sigmar model kits. So I had a lot of fun making that guy, and he came out looking awesome. I'm very proud of that model. Getting into the performance itself, my first game was against Justin. So Justin, as it turned out, was also from where we are in Western New York. Lived close by, and we met up with him again a week after the tournament, I think. So this was his first, at the very least, his first kill team tournament. He was running, I believe it was Alpha Legion Chaos Space Marines. He ran a single list that was exactly 125 points. I think it consisted of like 4 Chaos Space Marines, and the rest were all cultist. So this was cultist spam. And I was like, I saw this list and I was like, I think he might have me here, honestly, just based off the numbers. I was taking a very, very elite Astra Militarum list, like typically like 8 models at the most. So I'm like, he might have me just out activated here. The packet, there are some secondary objectives on here that are just so easy to score, that don't really involve you interacting with your opponent much. The Kill Team Championships 2021 tournament packet. Fortunately, though, I was able to walk away with a convincing win of the final score was 20-9. It actually was close up until turn 3, I think. And unfortunately, he made some mistakes when it came to picking the secondary objectives. He misinterpreted like 1 or 2 of them. Hold the perimeter, I think it was, which a lot of people do. It's an objective that you don't see taken a lot on this packet, right?
Oh yeah, the corners. I mean, it is. It's not the easiest one to get in comparison to some of the other options.
Yeah, and he misread it as thinking that it meant board edges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's most of the time when people take that secondary, that would be the situation.
Yeah, right, with all those cultists running around. Like, I was
Yeah.
thinking, I'm like, ooh, if I'm not careful, he can really get it. And then he did some things in the last 2 turns where he just wasn't able to score it, where I was able to kill models that were close enough to be able to do it. But yeah, walked away, final score 20-9. Good game, good opponent. The next game that I played was against Orion Wilfong and his Tyranids. He took Hydra Tyranids. And this game was literally a complete reversal for me from the last game. He got the max score 21, and I only scored 9 points. So similar to my first opponent, he went wide with his list. He had a lot of Hormagaunts, a Termagant, or he had like one of whichever that model has actual shooting, and the rest all melee. And then he had 2 or 3 of the warrior gunners, I believe, and those things are killer, and he was just able to basically kill what he needed. My scions, who I had equipped with, plasma gun and a melta-gun, came down from deep strike and were unable to kill anything. That's basically the story of the tournament for me. Was just dropping these scions in with their super powerful weapons, trying to one-pump models off the table, and it just never worked out that way in any of my games. Yeah, so did not get the result I wanted there. Orion was a very good opponent. Later on in this episode, you will hear our interview with him, so stick around for that. Moving on, my third opponent was against Chris. He was a first-time Kill Team tournament player. And he was playing Thousand Suns. Unfortunately, the way that the terrain was set up and the way the dice rolled really gave me a pretty convincing victory of 21-4. He just was not able to kill any of my models, and I was constantly able to just move onto more objectives than him every single turn with like Ryan and Rouse's shoot, scout, and scarper. abilities. And actually, in this game, one of the Scions did come down, deep struck in, and won it, and was able to one pump a Zangor off one of his backfield objectives. So I guess I just want to talk about the secondary objectives here a little bit. You and I kind of stuck to what I was calling the Holy Trinity of secondary objectives on this
Yeah.
packet, right? And that's steadfast, for me at least, it was steadfast, survivor, and overkill. Do you want to talk about what those secondaries are for a sec?
Yeah. Steadfast and Survivor. So, I mean, that's kind of like the core of it. And a lot of these missions, there was going to be a situation where the there's like an objective in your deployment zone, and there's always like places to hide and cover and stuff. So you could very easily put your leader or like a cheap unit on that objective, make that unit your survivor, and then you're kind of like putting the pressure on your opponent to come all the way to you and deal with that problem while dealing with all of your other models. And usually, I mean, it would be good to go either overkill or bounty hunters for me, um, to just pick up kills while I'm playing the primary objective. And then if my opponent does come near, I can, pivot and deal with them. And that just felt like a really strong strategy to me. And I think Wilfong was doing it a lot too. So clearly
Yeah, the
we were not the only ones.
secondaries that he took against me were Domination, Bounty Hunter, and Steadfast.
Okay.
So I mean, with the domination, with the amount of models that he was fielding, that's kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
And then
Against me, he did
Steadfast,
go. Yeah,
no-brainer.
I was just gonna say against me, he did go the steadfast survivor
Mm.
combo.
I've never like we've played on this packet over TTS, I believe, for a tournament. But I will say I did enjoy playing this tournament packet in real life. The terrain that Basement Wargamers had uh, been assembling turned out great. It was basically the exact specifications that you need on the packet or that the packet requires, and I had fun playing on it. I mean, obviously, like to me, it seemed like those secondaries are just like the standouts, and for most teams, there's no real reason to take any other secondaries. I'd be hard pressed to think, maybe like how Shield Drone Spam would have taken like Domination, maybe. I don't know. But either way, there's just like a handful of secondary objectives that you kept seeing popping up for the top players, really. So moving on to my game against Daniel. Daniel was running Novak Necrons, and this game was by far my favorite game at the tournament. This is probably the best game of Kill Team that I ever participated in. It was like like I had the most enjoyment out of this game. I feel like I had the most, I don't know, it just like checked all the boxes for Kill Team really for me. The final score for this game was 15-15. I won on the primary objective because I outscored him by 1 point on the primary objective,
Hmm.
which was just wild. Early on in the game, I was getting every charge roll I needed. I was getting every out of action I needed. I think he only wound up reanimating a model once the entire game, which was pretty crazy because I'm like hitting him with power fists and plasma guns and plasma pistols. But then in the very last turn of the game, I needed to charge my Bulgrin onto one of his backfield objectives, and in order to like lock up the win for me, successfully kill the flayed one I think that he had on that point, and then thus take the objective and outscore him on primary. I wound up doing that at the end of the game anyway, but anyways. So my Bulgrin charges into this little flayed one, and he's got like 4 or 5 attacks, I think, and he completely whiffs. Long story short, he completely whiffs, and I'm just standing there, and I just couldn't believe it. This is the second time. This is the second time this tournament that the Bulgrin had just completely whiffed for me. Um, and I was just like, oh my god, this lost me the game. And then we tallied it all up, and I wound up being able to take it with the one more primary point. Daniel was a great opponent. Like early on in the game, I was very far ahead. So I was very impressed that he kind of just like stuck with it. Didn't really let it get to him. Didn't tilt, and was able to get a tie in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I caught the end of that game, and there was some crazy stuff
Yeah,
happening.
yeah. All right. So my last game of the tournament was against Eric Cecil, who is a friend of Orion Wilfong's, and he was playing Firstborn Astartes, so no Primaris units at all. And I'll be straight with you guys. He took like a for fun Adeptus Astartes list. Not a lot of storm shields. I don't even know if there was a storm shield in this list. He took a jump pack Vanguard vet with dual plasma pistols. Took like a sergeant with a combi melta, another sergeant with two chain swords, no sort of like invulnerable save or anything, and then I think a plasma cannon gunner. So I'm thinking like, okay, there's like no invulnerable saves on any of these models. I should be able to get this with the amount of shooting that I have. I have never gotten as bad. Credit to my opponent, he played a good game. I had never gotten dice this bad in my life. Let me tell you. I think in a single turn, I think I re-rolled like four dice. I think I used like tack reroll twice or like once in the shooting and the fight phase, and it just never panned out. I didn't hit anything. The Bulgrin whiffed yet again. The plasma and melta gunners who came down and deep struck against a space marine with no invulnerable save who was not in cover completely whiffed against him. So I wasn't even like taking him to the option to use Death Deny. So he was just stacking CP, and by the end of it, even if I was able to take anyone off the board, he would have just been able to CP. There was a point in the game where I thought I had expended all my CP, and Eric told me that I had one left remaining, and I was like, okay, I don't believe you, but all right, if you're adamant about this and you're okay with it, all right. So I re-rolled, and even then it didn't work out. So that game obviously was just not meant to be. Good game, Eric. It was a fun time though. It was a fun time. Eric's a great guy. Overall, I wound up placing sixth at this tournament, so I was very pleased with that result. Didn't really have that much practice with Astra Militarum going into the event. Um, Obviously, like a sixth place finish with this team, and this like not really having that much experience with it is a testament to how strong the Blackstone Guard were in Kill Team 2018, and I'm happy to see him go.
Yeah, same here.
All right, so how'd you do, Shane?
It was a really fun tournament. I mean, I ended up placing second place. But I did the same thing that I did at ACO, and I lost in the first round, which definitely didn't help.
And who did you
Um,
lose to?
yeah, I lost to Janice. So, a little backstory here. So Janice and I saw that we were matched up round one. We both kind of laughed about it. We went to the table, set up. I was thinking about the possibility of having to play against Janice again because at ACO we played, and it was very in my favor. Like it was a very one-sided game. Like just nothing really went right for her in that game. Um, but I know Janice is a very good player. I knew that she would be coming prepared because at that point she'd seen my list. She kind of knew what kind of orcs I like to run. Uh, and for the record, I was playing my Death Skulls, very similar list to what I ran at ACO. The only difference is, I guess, is that I ended up adding a comm specialist knob, which I used almost every game, I think every game, and I added the option of to the roster for a heavy specialist Luda. And I didn't run this Luda against Janice, but she was running her Eldar this time, and Eldar is one of the only factions that I really had never played my Death Skulls against. I just wasn't really familiar with that matchup. That being said, uh, I came in and I just felt a little off my game, and Janice just played very well. I think the final score ended up being 15-18, and it was like I had failed like a 2 damage injury roll with my big chop on the last round, and it would have been 17-18 with like the outside chance of like a guy shaking and then it's a tie. But it was, I mean, it was a good win for Janice. She really just ended up, she dropped her striking scorpion in, and it just caused so many problems for my backline.
Mm.
And then her howling banshee XR kept getting onto my knobs, and we would decisive strike. This happened, I think, three, like second round, third round, and fourth round. We would be in combat, and we would both decisive strike, and she would win the decisive strike roll off, and then kill my knob with a howling banshee.
Every time for
And
3
yeah,
turns?
it happened second, third, and fourth turn.
Oh,
I
man.
yeah. So a little unfortunate on the dice rolls there, but I mean, Janice played pretty strong, and I probably could have played a little bit better that game anyway. I was pretty much happy to lose to Janice, though. I mean, I kind of figured that she was going to get her revenge at some point
Yeah.
after ACO, and this was where it happened. So, yeah. My second round matchup was against, I believe his name was JoJo, um, and he was playing Death Guard. So it was Orcs versus Death Guard. And let me tell you, this is one of the worst games I have played, like from a quality perspective, um, in a while. He was a really nice opponent. He played well, but I think I was lucky to win this game, to be completely honest.
Oh, wow,
Like
okay.
the first couple of rounds, I mean, I definitely made some errors. Um, I took the flash kit, which was not an error. He ended up doing absolutely nothing the entire game. Like I kept moving my comms too far away from him, and then I would end up shooting at like a plague marine. And to be fair, I was getting, 3 shots from the guy hitting on fives, and I've got 2 ammo rerolls, and I would DACA every time, so I'd be getting like 8 dice, and I never even wounded with the guy, and I did it 2 turns in a row. And the flash kit just whiffed every time, and then I get onto his plague marine with the flail, and or not with the flail, with with the plague cleaver, so the
Mhm.
D6 damage thing,
Yeah.
and I fight first with my kill saw, and I fail the injury roll.
Oh, no.
And then he swings back and kills me, and then like next turn, his blight launcher kills my flash kit, and it just feels like nothing is going right. Like every time we fight, he just kind of ends up wiping one of my guys, and it starts to look pretty ugly.
Mm.
Um, and then turn 3, I kill a lot of his guys, and I bring it within, like, it becomes winnable. And turn 4, uh, I stupidly move my survivor back. Like, this is the biggest issue is we're on turn 4,
Right.
and I don't know the last time that I did this, but I did not realize it was the last round. Like, I thought it was round 3 or something.
Mhm.
But I moved my survivor back into my deployment zone to get safe from
No.
something else. And, he ends up living, but it doesn't matter. Uh, but my opponent ends up breaking on turn 4, and basically all of his models end up shaking, like all of his crucial models, and I end up winning 17-16. And I just walked away
Wow.
from that game just like feeling very lucky to have come away with a win,
Yeah.
because there was a good portion of that game where I was like, man, I am about to be 0-2. This is not good at all. But I got the win.
Yeah.
Um, Shout out to my opponent. It was a fun game. I felt terrible winning off a break. That is one thing that I am not going to miss in Kill Team 2, Kill Team 2021, whatever you want to call it. I hated.
2018, not 2021.
No, I mean it's something that I'm not going to miss
Oh, I
while
got
playing
you.
the new game.
Okay.
Is like break tests and morale, especially break tests.
Oh
Like
yeah.
holy crap, they
It
just suck.
it such feels bad. And I like a lot of people are like for some reason are like, well, there's no morale system in the game, and I'm like, why do you miss it? Why do you miss it?
Yeah, I who
If
likes
if you
morale?
miss it, let us know in the comments. Like
Mhm.
I genuinely want to know.
Yeah. So I am at this point. I'm 1-1. I have won a game off the skin of my teeth, and I lost a game in a pretty high scoring loss. So
Yeah.
I go to turn or round three rather, and I am playing against this guy Dave, who actually approached me before the first round of the tournament, and he's a listener, I guess. So shout out to you. And he was actually playing Death Skulls. Like he
Yeah.
messaged me, I believe, saying that he was basically like really into the Death Skulls team that I talked about on the ACO video, and we had a orc mirror match, but not just an orc mirror match, but a Death Skulls mirror match. So just craziness. And this game went very in my favor. So this was the first time that I whipped out the Luda. AP1
Luda.
damage 2 is just very good against orcs. And it's going to perform similarly against Death Skulls as compared to the Flash Get for like 15 points cheaper. We both set up our shooters on these like towers, or not towers, but the crates.
Right.
And I put my Scorcha in reserve. So immediately, I set myself up to try and deny his steadfast and try and threaten his survivor with the Scorcha. And with the other model, or with the Luda rather, I just ready him up. At the first turn, I set up for like area denial, basically. And then the second turn, I actually had a moment where I was able to shoot and kill his flash cut with the Luda, which is like the most value you can possibly get out of Haluda. Like where you're basically shooting and killing the more expensive, better version of your model. Um, and the first turn was basically super low scoring, and then the second turn I was able to kill like 4 or 5 of his guys. At which point he had to break test, and then he failed the break test, and then the two models he had left shook, and we kind of tried tailing it up, and it was pretty much done and dusted at that point.
Yeah.
And I got a 21 point max. So 21-1 was the final score. After that, I ended up playing against Steve Mancino. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. But he was one of the TOs, kind of. He was helping run the event. He's one of the Basement Wargamers guys,
Yeah. He
and
was the
he
guy
was
who made
running.
all the terrain, I believe.
Oh, no, I didn't even know that. Yeah. So shout out to Steve. He was playing playing as Drakari, and I had met Steve at ACO, but we hadn't gotten the chance to play. And I think we covered his Drakari in our top 8 video for the ACO
Yeah, I think I put a
tournament.
picture of it in that video of one of the mandrakes that he had made.
Yeah, he had the Deepkin guys
Yes,
as mandrakes,
the
which I
Ideneth
love.
Deepkin conversions, super cool looking.
Yeah, and he was running the Drakari here. He ended up taking, I believe it was the Cabalites, and he took a Dark Lance and I think a Shredder, the weapon that's like D6 shots, 12-inch range.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just able to set up a lot of good situations for myself. I think he played it well, but there was just never really a great spot for him in that game.
Mm.
Um, I would move up the board, kind of like staying in combat as much as possible, just to avoid a shooting. Um, I was able to threaten his leader and some of his other models with the flash kit from very far away. Uh, and I mean, kind of just utilizing at one point, I was utilizing the 6-inch range difference between the Mandrake Bell Blast being 18 inches compared to the flash kit being 24 inches.
Ah, okay.
Um, so, like, there was one turn where I went second, and he had set up his Night Fiend later in a spot, and I just moved my flash kit like 19 inches from the Night Fiend, and I was able to just shoot and kill him. Um, but basically, just setting up those situations over and over. And I don't think I lost any models that game.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Steve played it really well though, but I think the final score was like 21-6, I believe. I think I got a max. I might not have, but it was a pretty high scoring game for me. And suddenly I'm 3-1 going into the fifth round, and I'm in second place against Ryan Wilfong, who you played against earlier, who
Yep.
our interview is coming up after this. Um, and Wilfong, he was 4-0 with the Tyranids, and I was looking at the situation on the scoring, and I knew that obviously I needed to beat him if I wanted to win the tournament, but I needed to beat him by like 5 or 6 points, something like that. Um,
Yeah, I remember you coming over and telling me that you could win it, but you would have to beat him by at least 6 points. And I'm
yeah, I
like,
think it actually,
okay.
I think it ended up being 5.
Oh, okay.
But still, this game was like one of the toughest games I've ever played of Kill Team. Um,
Yeah.
and as of now, it is the last game of Kill Team 18 that I have played, and I kind of want to keep it that way because it felt like a final boss almost. Like
Oh,
it was
Orion
so,
Wilfong is definitely was definitely the boss of this tournament.
and it was a very very tough game. And at one point, like I said, he had taken the Survivor Steadfast combo that you and I were doing
Yep.
in this game. And at one point, I had a knob in on his Survivor, and I was on one of the two objectives that he held that ended
Mm,
up being a Steadfast objective. And I was about to fight his his Hormagaunt Survivor while like contesting that objective with him. And this is a knob with a 4-up save, 2 wounds, toughness 4, all that good stuff. And his warrior killed my knob with flesh hooks. Like I rerolled the armor save, failed. He got the injury roll. I don't even know if he had to reroll it, but I never even got the chance to swing on that survivor. And I remember thinking like that was the moment where if I was going to win that game by like a sizable amount, it would have been off the back of that
yeah,
situation.
it absolutely would have been.
And that was very unfortunate, that model dying. However, I was still able to come away with a 19-19 draw where I don't remember which tiebreaker it was. It might have been the primary, but I had one of the tiebreakers, and so I got the win. Um, and unfortunately, I didn't get that big win that I need. I mean, not even that big. And I think he ended up with like 4 more points than me. We both ended up 4-1 on the tournament, but he took first and I took second. So, I mean, I think I played very well in that last game. It was not an easy game by any stretch. That was another game where I took the Luda, I believe,
Mm,
and he performed adequately. I was happy with him, especially considering it's so cheap. He doesn't need to do much to be effective. But yeah, I mean, it was a really fun tournament. I had a blast personally.
yeah, it was. Yeah, so second place. Good job.
Yeah, I was hoping for first, but I felt like I played better as the tournament went on. Like I started with a rough loss, played terrible in my second game, and got kind of bailed out. And then I think I played really well the rest of the day. So I'm happy with that. To me, that's like a good way to go out. And I mean, I beat the winner of the tournament in the
Yeah.
last game, and I can't think of a better way to get second place, to be honest.
Yeah, overall great tournament. Like any other kill team events that Basement Wargamers does in the future, I would definitely make it a point to try and get to one. It was very fun, and I look forward to attending another one in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're a state away for us, and I know for a fact they're going to be running tournaments in the future. So if you're in the Northeast, definitely keep an eye out for any of their events because they are very well run and there's a lot of really good players that go to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our interview with the Summer Slaughter Grand Champion, Orion Wilfong. Okay, and we are here with the winner of the Summer Slaughter Kill Team Tournament, Orion Wilfong. Congratulations on your victory, sir. Happy to have you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, certainly. Thank you for having me. I met you guys pretty recently, so it's pretty exciting. I get to be on one of these things.
Awesome. So my first question for you is you decided to go with, of all factions, Tyranids. You decided to bring them to the Summer Slaughter. What was it about the Hydra subfaction version of Tyranids that appealed to you, and why did you choose to ultimately bring them to the tournament?
Ah, man, Tyranids, they're my main faction pretty much. I've been playing them pretty much since I got into the competitive scene. Like I did like my first tournament with Chaos Space Marines, and from there on out, it was just nothing but Tyranids. I love them. I don't think they've ever been bad personally. A lot of people like to give them a lot of crap and say they weren't good as all the other factions, but I've honestly never had a bad event period with the Tyranids at all. So I love them. And then Hydra is one of my favorites just because it was the closest to my paint scheme. That when I made it, it was like, they kind of look like Hydra. So I always kind of just liked that subfaction, and I wanted to play it for the last event.
Ah, okay. So it was more like a hobby thing first rather than like a competitive decision to go with Hydra. What exactly is the Hydra subfaction trait for the people who don't know?
So Hydra, it's a bit of a fun one. If you basically have two Tyranid models within engagement range of the same opponent's model, both those models or anybody in the engagement range of that opponent's model gets to re-roll their hit rolls against that model. And I took this at first. I took it because it was just a fun thing to try out with the Tyranids because I liked messing around with them. But then I consistently noticed my warriors. I always failed half of my hits with the warriors, no matter what I did. I don't know if I'm just cursed or whatever, but my warriors 2 attacks went through no matter what, and then the rest just failed on the wound roll. So like people always talk about like, oh, Tyranids are scary in melee. I'm like, no, my warriors just suck. So I was like, all right, we're gonna mitigate that by literally making them re-roll their failures. So that's kind of where it went, and then it somehow worked out pretty well in this packet, which I was a little surprised by.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so. Shane, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. I know for this version of the packet that we were playing at Summer Slaughter, the the maximum warrior gunners was increased. I think to like 2 or 3. How much of a factor did that play in your list building and just throughout the tournament?
Overall, I think it was a fantastic change to really help out the Tyranids, but it wasn't. So I only ever took the two gunners. You could take three, but I only ever took the two, except for one time against my friend Eric, who was playing all his firstborn Space Marines. I took the triple gunner there, but it didn't honestly help as much as I thought it would. Um, so yeah, but the double gunner was fantastic because I normally bring two warriors anyway in my lists, no matter what. Um, I always tried to take two warriors and then literally everything else I could. I never did gaunt spam, so I never did the 20-man list or anything like that. But having the one gunner who was a comms upgrade from a death spitter to a venom cannon is just so good. And you pair that with the packets rule, where random variable dice weapons get to roll 2 dice and pick the highest. That's where it gets really interesting, I think, for the Nids, because you got this strong Melta style gun that has an incredibly long range and is generally getting 2 to 3 shots every shot, opposed to maybe one more consistently.
Yeah,
Okay, super interesting. Yeah, because I figured that was a definitely a piece of that puzzle. It was not something that's ever really been seen before in a tournament, so it was cool to see not only have it crop up, but to see somebody take it to all the way to first place. So congrats on that. Um, I did want to ask also about just how you approach secondaries in that packet and how you went about scoring them and how you chose what to take when and just what was the mindset there.
So a lot of the factions I go up against, I just can't kill them. Even with the extra venom cannons, the likelihood of me consistently killing things was very slim. I actually did kill consistent things amount in this tournament, but when I was testing, most of my games I killed little to no models when I was testing. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do my best I can and ignore my opponent and just move on the board and score that way, which is what NIDs are supposed to do. So most of mine, I always generally took engaged in all fronts or like domination, something movement wise that I knew I'd get no matter who I was facing. Unless like for some reason they had better bodies to put in the middle of the board than me for domination. And then I always tried to take survivor or steadfast because once again it was just relying on me living opposed to my opponent dying.
Mhm.
So, and with the Tyranids, you can use the one tactic for 2 CP. It's death denied on a 4-up.
Yeah.
And for Tyranids, it's not nearly as good, but it just helps you live longer for this weird little pesky. I would always make my survivor a random Hormigaunt. I wouldn't make it a warrior or anything like that in most cases because they get gunned down if your opponent is really trying and you want them in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
So I always just try to keep like little Hormigants alive in the backfield, move them out last round to get survivor, or they'll just hold an objective because my opponent could never really get to a back objective because I had so many bodies to get through. So most of it was just picking secondaries to stay alive and kind of ignore killing my opponent at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny when I like to quote this game a lot. When me and my friend Dan, who was playing Necrons at the event, when we were testing, I had played one game against him where I killed no Necrons whatsoever. And I didn't even charge him at all either the entire game. I charged him one time throughout the 4 rounds. And the rest I just moved on the board and kept away. And I won that game really well. So from that, I was like, okay, this is what I'll do with NIDS moving to the event.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I had the opportunity to play against him in this tournament too, in a very close game. He's a great player. So, what was your hardest matchup at this tournament? What was like, I guess, the hardest game for you?
Well, I would say the one I tied and lost on would probably be the hardest. With our good local our good local orc player here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did go 4-1, losing to Shane with his orcs, and that game was a nail biter and a half. It was tense, but it was great.
Yeah, I that game was intense for me as well. As you can imagine, the 19-19 score was probably the highest scoring tie that I've like ever had in a game of Kill Team.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, and that game really came down to 2 crucial points. The first one was a benefit to me, where I managed to kill one of his knobs with flesh hooks when he got into a critical melee combat against my survivor target. He was going to take some serious points off if that melee went through, odds are. And the 2 flesh hook shots managed to just rip right through his armor save and kill him, which I know you were
Unbelievable.
not happy
Oh
about.
man, I was that was killing me then.
And on the flip side of that, on our last round, um, he had you had taken steadfast, and I managed to slap a little Hormigaunt on the on his last steadfast objective to try and hold it and contest him. And I failed the 4-up save on the rapid regeneration roll, which would have won me the game had he lived. So
Yeah,
there's 2 critical points on both of us, where it was just like, "Ah, this could have just won the game either way."
yep. Yeah, there was a lot of craziness right there. I mean, it was an insane game though. Um, it's the last game of Kill Team 18, I guess you can call it Kill Team 1 that
I
I've
think that's what they
played,
would
and
call it.
I kind of want it to be the last game that I play because I
Right.
can't imagine like a crazier, like how can I top that game, right?
Yeah,
Very
that game
true.
really was like the showcase game of that whole tournament for me. And I when we were finished, I'm like, man, I couldn't have lost or won this tournament on a better game at all. Like that was fantastic. I had some really good games overall, but that one was a real nail biter.
I would totally agree. My game with Janice that I lost as well was a tight one, but that game was just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and
So,
congrats to you as well, by the way, because
Oh,
you also
thanks.
placed.
Yeah, first and second right here at that event.
yeah. And sixth.
And
I
sixth.
came in
And
sixth. All right. So, moving forward, have you gotten to play any games of the new edition of Kill Team yet?
Unfortunately, no. Like I'm so involved in the community, and like I keep looking at all the stuff and like talking to some people about it. But I myself, I don't have any of the rule books yet, or haven't really even looked at the core rules. So I really want to, but I don't have any of this stuff yet, and no one near me has it. So I'm just kind of sitting here like a kid waiting for Christmas to come, until I get the books.
Okay, okay. I
I've
got
seen
you.
snippets. I've seen snippets of like Custodes OP or Tyranids are in a good spot or this and that. The people speaking the loudest about things. But
Mhm. I think you're.
unfortunately,
I
I got
think
no.
you're. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Good.
I was just going to say, I think you're going to be very happy with Tyranids, based on what I've seen. They are very strong.
Yeah, I got one question for you about how many gene stealers do you have?
Man, I've never looked at more than two, because I've always just had the one for each of the special morphs.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, I've never really ran any more than that number of gene stealers. So I'm gonna have to really put some work because I know I need like five of them, right?
Yeah,
I
at
think
least
so,
5.
yeah.
Yeah. I've heard Tyranids are good. I'm excited for it. Me
Hmm.
personally, I've always thought Tyranids were good, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you thought they were good before,
Yeah, get
I think
ready.
you're gonna love it. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I
they're
mean,
awesome.
I had a huge success with Tyranids overall. I think I won every tournament I took Tyranids to, except for Magfest where I got third.
Hmm.
So like, I've always been like, yeah, I don't see what the problem is.
So speaking of which, I wanted to talk about that. So you're over in the scene with some of those guys, like Will and I believe Eric and Dan, right?
Yeah, Will, Eric, um, yeah, Dan, Stefan, all those dudes who are they populate most of our tournaments on the East Coast over here because we're
Yeah.
in partnership with Basement War Gamers, and I work with at Summer Slaughter. Those are the guys who ran that event. So
Mhm.
I work with them. They're fantastic guys trying to populate every tournament they can on the East Coast, up and down. So we're trying to get it to be an as active scene as it is on the West Coast, which is fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So we're
Hey,
all kind of part of a big kind of Eastern Shore group
yeah.
right now.
Up here in Western New York, we're trying to get events going as well. So
Yeah, we'll definitely
join
come up
that.
to them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk to you because it seemed like you were always definitely in that like top 3 as far as East Coast tournaments went. And then right after, I want to say like everything reopened from COVID, you really started going on a tear with your event placements. And I just wanted to ask you, like, was there anything that changed in the way you played or how you approached tournaments in that period, or like what adjustments did you make, if any?
So there, it was a bit strange thing. On the East Coast, I was always doing good, but the only person who really knew me from any of like the popular players was Janice.
Hmm.
And I never got to play her at all. I went to a couple events where I saw her, but we were like ships in the night. We just never played.
Hmm.
And
Passing
then I
by.
finally got, yeah, I finally got to play her at an event, and like from there, I just started getting introduced to more and more people she knew. So then, I kind of got picked up and was like, oh man, I get to hang out with you guys now. So it was more so like just the fate of playing Janice, I would say, really just picked me up into things, and then I started playing at the higher tier events because I never got to go to Nova, I never got to go to LVO or any of that stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, so until like Magfest and ACO, I hadn't done any like gigantic events. I'd only ever done the local game store one.
Right.
So it was kind of that, I never got to play any of the big events until after COVID, which is a shame. I didn't get into the actual competitive scene until it's dead.
Yeah.
Well, if it's any consolation, you can rest easy knowing that at the end, when all the dust was settled, you emerged at the top of the mountain. So, congratulations once again on your victory at Summer Slaughter. Before we get out of here, is there anybody that you would like to give a shout out to or anything like that?
Certainly. I mean, first and foremost, you guys. You guys are really an important thing for the Kill Team community when you're running tournaments. running the Discord, answering questions, doing these interviews, reaching out to players, showing them what's what. Growing this community is very important, not only to me, but I think to all the competitive players. And I think you guys, having your foot on the button there, and just really reaching out to people like me, and just getting everybody involved with everyone is a fantastic thing. So personally, I can't thank you guys enough for doing that.
Oh,
You know,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, your work does not go unappreciated in my eyes. Let's say that much. Um, Janice, of course, she's a fantastic person. I can't thank her enough for talking to me and bringing me into other people and whatnot. Our games have always been pretty fantastic. I think we've played like the same mission like twice in a row on the same exact map, so we have a bit of jokes going on there. Um, I think we were talking about that earlier. And then just my actual playtest buddies down here in Maryland, this is where we're playing at Titan Games. They've always helped me play. We've always bettered each other, learning the rules, forgetting the rules. Uh, I can't thank them enough for helping me out.
Well, awesome. Thank you once again for coming onto the pod, and we really appreciate you being here. And good luck in your future kill team endeavors.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys sometime soon, whether I win or lose.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And so we are back from our interview with Orion Wilfong. So I guess now we're just kind of, getting into our Kill Team 18 send-off, right? We're just gonna reminisce for a little bit. Shane, is there anything that you really want to talk about before we put these Kill Team 2018 books on the shelves and never take them off again for the next like 20 years or something?
Yeah, I mean we've spent so much time playing this game. It is very weird to just play, like it's kind of just gone now.
Yeah.
But I think it's with an excitement to play the new edition that makes this, in my eyes, completely fine. Obviously, the game was not perfect. There was issues that we talked about in great detail over the last couple of years, but it's been a fun ride for sure. I mean, this channel was built on that game, so can't really ever take that away.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so where do I even start? The game was great for what it was, for the time it was. Um, despite its issues, I always enjoyed playing it. Unless it was against, Tau Shield Drone spam. Um, I'm sorry, I had to say it. I had to say it.
Eh,
And all of the elites models that came into it, really fleshed the game out and really made it a very interesting game to play. Um, I know a lot of other people really enjoyed playing this game. Otherwise, we wouldn't have almost 1,000 people in our Discord server, over 3,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and a bunch of podcast listeners like you guys. So, yeah, no, it's been a fun ride with Kill Team 2018, but I really am looking forward to the new Kill Team. We've already played a bunch of the new Kill Team. Um, just going off the like the screenshots that we've gotten from the rule books and the compendium and stuff like that. And I'm really liking this new edition of Kill Team. I will say I am liking it a lot better than the old version of Kill Team. So old Kill Team, good for what it was at the time, but I'm happy to be moving on from it into this new edition.
yeah, me too. I mean, I think a lot of the changes, like kind of getting rid of spam lists and just like getting rid of stuff like morale and break tests, I think overall for the game, it's going to be a lot better. And I mean, the way that they've introduced alternating activations, I think is really good. And I think it's going to make for a better experience overall.
I agree with that. The game seems like it's easier to play. It's easier to learn, I will say that. It is a lot easier to build a team. It's a lot easier to get into the game, and it's I don't know, it's just easier to play and easier to get into, but there's still depth to it. And it's somehow they've done it in that it's even more thematic. It's even more like lore friendly, I guess you could say, rather than Kill Team 2018 was. So so far, I think GW has done a great job with the design of this game so far, and I look forward to see what's coming for Kill Team in the future.
Yeah, me too. I cannot wait until I guess whatever this edition's equivalent of elites is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait until that comes out because there's so many things that I am excited to run in the game, and a lot of stuff that I think now that the data sheets aren't attached, you can actually add in, whereas before they may not have translated as well to Kill Team, like using those 40K data sheets basically,
Right.
and it just kind of opens up like endless possibilities almost.
So, do you have anything else about the old Kill Team or new Kill Team you'd like to say before we get out of here?
It's exciting, it's sad, but just I'm looking forward to everything. It's gonna be a fun time.
For sure, for sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Command Point podcast. We really appreciate your listenership. A special thank you to our Patreon supporters over on Patreon, without which your help, well, your help is really what makes all of this possible for us. So, thank you to you guys. Thanks everybody for watching on YouTube and listening on whatever podcast app you're listening to, and we hope to see you all again in the next one. Bye-bye.